I've always been a sucker for movies, preferably old ones. While my peers wanted to look like Simon Le Bon, I always wanted the sartorial elegance of Alain Delon. In fact, films colonised my consciousness so much growing up that my first kiss as a teenager was deliberately modelled on one taken from the film It's a Wonderful Life. Written texts are so central to social science that we have tended to marginalise the visual, associating images with a dumbing down of information. Yet just try to describe an image verbally or in a written description, and this becomes a tedious and lengthy exercise. Images, on the other hand, are instantaneous and engaging. Think of infographics. But they are a different type of language to the textual and verbal, and are often difficult to analyse and understand. They are different but important ways of thinking. This is increasingly recognised by a new wave of visual social scientists such as Sarah Pink and Douglas Harper. But visual social science is nothing new. Visual social science has a heritage of more of a century if one thinks of photojournalism, which poignantly undermines the notion of dumbing down. Think of the empirical importance of visual ethnography, from Mead and Bateson's Balinese character to cutting-edge works such as Bourgeois and Schoenberg's Righteous Dope Fiend, of cinema verite, for example the films of Jean Rouch. I came to recognise the importance of visual sociology as a form of assessment in two main ways. For many years, I've been going to student degree art shows and was really jealous about not only the quality of the work on display, but the immediacy of it, the way that it communicated messages to the general public, to an audience, in a way in which sociology, essays, and other text based approaches couldn't. So I'd go to these shows and think, why can't we do something like that for our students? The second main reason that I came to visual sociology was personal. My son was part of a drama group in Gloucester, which took 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon. And I was at a loose end. I just bought a camera and I was thinking, well, how can I kill these 3 hours rather than just go down to the pub or sit in my car in the car park outside the drama group? So what I began to do was to take photos of the immediate area. And then this became not only a personal essay, which I'd put out on Facebook, on social media, but it also impacted on my other work, which eventually led to a short film based on photographs took in Stokes Croft alongside my colleague John Bird. Visual assessments are not a panacea, but they do bring with them many innovative and important features. First of all, think about the importance of impact. Think about the way of the immediacy of communicating through images and what this can bring to assessment, teaching, and research. Think about the ways in which images can be used by students to make very explicit links between theory, empirical observation, case study materials, and practice. Think about the importance of visual imagery to the knowledge economy, to employability, and to our own technology enhanced learning strategy. Think about the divergent thinking and creativity that image work can bring to assessment. And anecdotally, students tend to do better on average with visual assessments than they do for purely written work. Today I want to talk about two main forms of visual assessment, Pechakucha and short filmmaking. Pechakucha is an innovative form of PowerPoint presentation developed in Japan. Its most literal translation is chit chat. It was devised by Astrid Klein and Mark Ditham of Klein Ditham Architects, and the first Pechakucha night was held in Tokyo in February 2003. Pechakucha design is very simple. Students are asked to use 20 slides, shown for 20 seconds each, to tell their story. That's 6 minutes and 40 seconds in total. The images advance automatically, and for the purposes of this exercise, students record a narration using a microphone which accompanies their presentation. So PechaKucha is a type of short PowerPoint-based film. PechaKucha encourages IT and presentation skills and fits the TEL agenda. It requires team working and facilitation skills and builds into this an element of cohort identity building. It requires that students have to present fluently but concisely to time, turning research into a precise but creative visual report. It is a portable form of presentation which can be disseminated easily to the outside world as examples of the sort of innovative work we are doing with sociology undergraduates. I use PechaKucha as a form of visual assessment at level 1 to try to create cohort identity, but this is an example taken from a level 3 module Stop, Look, Listen.
Our PechaKucha presentation will be focusing on the social construct of Virgin, and more specifically, its enigmatic tycoon, Sir Richard Branson. We will be applying the Virgin group to the work of Pierre Bourdieu through his concepts of both the field and habitus, and tasting many of the pies that Branson has his fingers in. According to Pistone, Lepuma, and Calhoun in Bourdieu Critical Perspectives, Bourdieu was long a dominant figure in French social sciences. He was increasingly influential internationally. In a series of research projects and publications starting in the 1950s, Bourdieu has addressed an astonishing range of empirical topics and theoretical themes. Bourdieu was perhaps best known for his work on the field and habitus, two methods of analysis that seek to establish patterns and relationships between different groups, individuals, and objects. This approach aims to dissect the social activities between said groups, whether they be direct or otherwise, in order to gain more solid knowledge in regard to these links and therefore the groups themselves. Here is an example of one of Bourdieu's fields. He stated that fields present themselves synchronically as structured spaces of positions or posts whose properties depend on their position within these spaces and which can be analysed independently of the characteristics of their occupants, which are partly determined by them.
I mark the presentations on 5 main criteria, each worth 20% of the overall mark. Firstly, the quality of narration. The pre-recorded voiceover narration is probably the most important element in any PechaKucha, and I asked the students to consider the following. Did the slides sync with the presentation? Was the quality of the script and delivery up to scratch? Is the academic analysis engaging as well as enlightening? Number 2, appropriateness of analysis. Did you follow the required task and answer the set question? Number 3, depth of understanding. How deeply did you engage with the task and demonstrate a deep understanding of the presented topic? Number 4, the quality of images, texts, or diagrams used. How appropriate were the slides used? Did they marry up with your analysis? And finally, and just as importantly, creativity. How creative was your approach? Did you attempt to look at the topic in a new way, creating new and unexpected relationships between the text and narration? I use short films as an assessment on my level 2 module, Transgression. This is a cultural criminology module open to sociology and criminology students. And I want to show a brief excerpt of one of the films which really shows the effort and passion that students put into this form of assessment.
It is impossible to avoid the concept of chavs in modern Britain. They represent the primary form of underclass in the UK today. A nationwide group of delinquent teens and young adults loitering on the streets dressed in designer clothing. They're feared for their loud, aggressive behaviour and derided for their dress sense. The view is that where we go out, get jobs and earn an honest living, they would rather just sit at home and claim benefits. They can't even seem to speak the same way that we do. Chavs are surely the most universally hated group in our society. The media runs headlines warning us about their loutish behaviour, and people of all other sections of society recoil in horror if they're told that something they did or something that they are wearing is a bit chavvy. In this video, I want to achieve a complete overhaul of this way of thinking. I will not only show that many of these views are based on class prejudices, but also expose how government policy effectively socially engineered this underclass group, and how politicians and the media continue to maintain and promote this class prejudice, dehumanising and demonising some of the poorest in our society.
I mark the films on 4 main criteria, each worth 25% of the overall mark. Firstly, quality of narration. Again, the pre-recorded voiceover narration is probably the most important element, as in Pechacucha. How do visuals and audio work together? How good was the script? How engaging and enlightening was the narrative? Secondly, appropriateness of analysis. Did students follow the required task and answer the set topic? Thirdly, depth of understanding. How deeply did students engage with the task and demonstrate a deep understanding of the presented topic? And finally, number 4, creativity. How creative was the students' approach? Did they attempt to look at the topic in a new way, creating new and unexpected relationships between the topic, the visuals, and the narration? That is, between social scientific language and visual language.